In this next part, we'll have a look at find, wc, sort, shuf, and tr. Let's get started. So we have our clean command prompt again. Let's have a look at what's still there from our last part. And I've also created a new subdirectory which has a copy of the files in this directory. Okay, so if we execute a standard find on the current directory, we see the current directory. Find basically just finds all the files and directories, and we see the file, the other file, the subdirectory, and the two files in the subdirectory. We can also make a subdirectory in the subdirectory and copy both of those files into the same. Of course, this omits the directory itself, because otherwise it would be this directory in the subdirectory and so on, or the subdirectory in the subdirectory, etc. Okay, so the files are here. Notice that we cannot use something like ... but we can use something like this. And this has gotten us two paths back. Notice also that we use /, not backslash, like in Windows. So let us do find again, and we can indeed see that we have a subdirectory yet again with the files in there. And now we can use the first option, type T, which will list only the directories, current directory, subdirectory, and subdirectory in the subdirectory. Or files, all the files, but no longer the subdirectories. We can also say max depth 1, and it will only find things within this depth, 2 in the second depth, etc. We can also do things like grab a particular text. I find this a little bit handier to use. What you could also do instead, notice by the way that it's taken the output from this command and inputted it into this command. So that's what the pipe command does, just like we saw in part 1. Okay, so let's say that we're looking for anything which has the number 2 in it. So an asterisk here means just any text, then 2 somewhere showing, and then any text. And sure enough, we have the same output, and we could have probably done this and have the same output too, simply because after the 2 there is nothing else. Let's verify this and make test 2b and see how we go now. And indeed test b is not there. If we said give me anything after the 2, then b will be there because of the letter asterisk. What could we do with find? Well, let's say that we want to find all the items that have 2 in it. We want to make sure that we only see files, and we want to view what's inside them. Now, you can mostly ignore this complex syntax for the moment, but this one is interesting. This just basically means whatever is found here, insert it here. Okay, so now it's gone, and it's found all these files, making sure it's only a file, not a directory, and it's executed for this particular files the cat command that we saw in the last part. So, let's do something else. What if we remove those files? Now we check to see what's left, and the only thing that's there is our 2b file, which is very interesting. Let's have a look at that file. Aha! It's not a file, it's a directory. So the command has executed correctly. Okay, what I personally find handier is to grab for a certain item and then pipe this output into some next command. For instance, we could simply use cat here, and what this would do is it would take this input and output it. So it's basically the same, it just outputted whatever it's found, which in this case has removed the highlight from the grep, which is probably just a render output, thereby or now deleted by the cat command. Let's have a look at WC. By the way, we can always type --help --help and get all of the relevant information for that particular file. We can also do man for manual and have a look at the more detailed manual. We press Q to quit, or we can use the VI commands that we've seen in the last commands, like look for something specific, and indeed it has found the specific word. So we quit out of it by pressing Q, and we notice that the WC command counts. So let's see what we could count. If we have a look at the test file, then we can see that it has one line within it. Let's send this output to a new file and expand that file by just repeating it a few times. We can even send the file to itself, just not in this way. Let's have a look. Okay, the file is 40 byte large and has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So let's send this output into the WC command and see how many lines it has. 5. So here we indicated -l. So just to come back to this help, -l is the number of lines. Let's see how many bytes it has. 40 bytes. And indeed this matches with the 40 bytes as shown in the directory listing output. Great. So the wcl command is very handy to see, for instance, how many lines is in a particular file. And we could do something like this. Of course it complains about test6 being a directory, but there's the output. And it says it's a directory, so 0, 6 in total, so it adds it up handily. In a script we would usually use something like this, simply because that's a nice way of getting just a single number back without any other information. Let's have a look at the sort command. For this we'll make a new file and we say zyxcba 5, 3, 7, 8, 2, 1. We write it out. Let's have a look at it. Oops. Let's have a look at it. And now we will use the sort command. So if we sort it, the output is nice. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. So the output is nicely sorted into alphabetical and numerical format. Now let's say that we added the same file, or maybe we'll just output this file into another file, and again, and we will have a look at this file. Now we see that the Z is repeated, so if we sort this, we see 1, 1, 2, 2, Z, Z, just like we expect. Now what if we say -u, which means unique? Great. So if we have a large file with a lot of data and we just want to get a unique output, then we can use sort -u. Now how about if we send the output from this, and notice how we're taking this and we're redirecting the output from this command, which is basically the on-screen output here. We could also use T and still get the on-screen output and also redirect it into file, but we're going to just redirect it this time and send it to test6. Oops, that's a directory, test7. So now we have a nicely sorted file here, test 7. How about if we shuffle it up again? And we have a shuffled file. Now there's something important to notice here, and that is there's something like a random entropy pool. The random generation that's used for shuffling the file changes or can be changed by setting up the random sequence generator in a different manner. We'll see probably a bit more about that later on. For the moment, if we run it numbers of times, it's sorted in a different way. Okay, so that's that for the moment. Now there's one command left, and that's tr. Let's have a look at tr. tr could be seen as translate, and we're going to translate the character A into the character C. Here we notice the character A. Let me just output it like this first so it's clear, and then re-enter the command. So here's A and here's C, so it's translated correctly. Now let's say that we want to translate the let's do this differently. Let's say that we want to translate the new line character, I don't know if this will work, but we'll see, into the letter U. Yes, so each time there was a U, each time there was a new line, it's translated that into a letter, which is very handy. Another way of doing this would be to delete a particular character. For example, in this case we've deleted A. We could also delete the new line, and great, everything is now on one line. Now one thing to notice here is that it expects a character. So if we do something like A to BB, it didn't work. It would just take the first character only. So that's a little caveat to watch out for when you're using tr. Okay, that's all for part 2. Hope to see you in part 3.